All right, it looks like we're just about at the starting time now. So I figure we might as well just go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the session. Thank you so much to Ascend Media and the Women in Construction Online Festival for having me here. I'm really excited to talk through the program today and hear from all of you if you have any questions. So welcome to the session, everyone. Today we're going to be walking through the 3 key rules of data-driven project management. I know that that is a bit of a mouthful, but I'm hoping that I can keep it pretty simple for everyone with a lot of interesting visuals and use cases. So if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. I expect this is going to go around 20 minutes or so. So I wanted to save a fair amount of time at the end to talk through use cases with everyone, to go over question and answer. So definitely don't hesitate to type into the chat box if anything comes to mind, and we'll save the last few minutes there to go over them. I know this is the last session of the day, so I do appreciate everyone joining. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Anna Schneider. I am a product marketing manager at Drone Deploy. I'm a Bay Area native, so out of the United States and California specifically. I love to garden, I love to cook, and spend as much time outside, hiking, going on adventures with the dog, especially during this crazy year that has been 2020. So before really diving into the content here, I kind of want to set the stage with some of the typical challenges that construction companies and specifically project managers might face on a day-to-day basis. Project managers specifically are kind of the linchpin. You know, you're communicating between multiple teams, between tons of different stakeholders, owners, executive, GCs, and you're also coordinating with subcontractors to make sure that all of the projects that you manage are on time and that they're on budget. So this is a huge challenge in and of itself, especially if you're managing on the order of tens of projects across your region. You also have employees that are potentially working in dangerous working conditions. They need to gather critical site data for exterior or facade inspections. And this can potentially cost your company tens of thousands of dollars in cranes, in swing stages, in bucket lifts, all the while putting your employees in these dangerous working conditions on a regular basis. And then finally, you need to have some sort of method to collect information for a standardized deliverable that's both easily accessible and easily digestible in order to provide the regular progress documentation that is required for each one of your projects. So I really just wanted to set the stage when we think about the 3 key rules of project management, all in regards to the challenges that you might be facing on a regular basis in the workplace. So the first part is visual documentation. This is what we believe to be the first and probably the most important rule for accurate and for successful project management. So when we think about visual documentation, this is a combination of both interior and exterior data sets that you will be able to use as your primary source of truth. So I know the polls haven't really been working very well, but I do just want to have people think about what different kinds of visual documentation mean. So we're not going to have a poll running right now, but I just kind of want to have this be a thought exercise for how do you typically collect visual documentation for your projects? Is it on foot with a digital or maybe a phone camera? So you're actually just walking around the job site and snapping pictures at relevant times or moments? Is it with satellite data? So when we think about satellite data, this could be a Google Earth map that's updated, once or twice a year. Or maybe you have a 360 camera that actually takes 360-degree video or panorama as you're walking or as you're driving a job site. Or maybe you're using a fixed camera on site. So this is something that you would have a specific location on the job site for surveillance, maybe time-lapse footage, or perhaps even a live stream. Or maybe you're using a drone. If you are, maybe you should talk to us. Or maybe you're using an airplane or a helicopter to go and do surveys of your sites. Or perhaps we know a lot of companies that don't really have a standardized method of visual documentation at this point. And that's why I'm really excited to talk you through the content that we have ready for you today. And so when we think about visual documentation, these are really kind of the keywords and key improvements that we're seeing really at a high level on a job site. When you have a standardized way of collecting and documenting a job site, you're going to not only increase your profits by improving productivity, but you're also going to lower your issue resolution costs. And the way that you're doing this, or the way that construction companies are doing this today, is you're increasing the speed and efficiencies in coordination and planning. You're lowering disputes between teams by having the central source of visual documentation. And you're also lowering rework costs by identifying issues early. So what does visual documentation actually look like? What is visual documentation? I know I've said those two words probably 20 times over the course of the first few minutes here of the presentation. And so now I want to dive into examples and really show you how powerful these data sets can be when used as your source of truth on a construction site. So what we see here are two different maps of a job site. The one on the right is from October of 2017, and the one on the left here is from just about a year later, beginning of November 2018. And what you can see here in the GIF is a side-by-side of how this specific project has evolved over the course of just a single year. You can see we start at pretty much bare earth in 2017, and over on the left, we actually have much of the exterior of the building completed. And so by having this kind of visual documentation and something as simple as a 2D map, you're actually going to begin to ensure that projects are being built according to plan. You can actually see here on these two maps that we have a design plan overlaid. So when you begin to see a design plan on top of a 2D map, you can ensure that not only is the project being built to plan, but that things are being built on the schedule that they're intended to be built. This allows your team in the field, or even your team in the office, to catch issues early and fix them quickly, which ultimately is going to be a huge saver of both time, money, and all of the other associated costs of rework. So that was two-dimensional. What about three-dimensional? What can you do with 3D models of your job site? On the left here, we have a volume measurement of a stockpile. So I know on a ton of different kinds of construction projects, you might be monitoring the amount of material that you have on site, whether it be gravel, sand, cement, and it's very important to understand and to have accurate measurements of how much of that material you have on site on a specific day. So on the left there, this is an actual volume measurement of a specific material on site. The middle image here is a 3D model of a building that's under construction. So when you have an interactive 3D model, such as the one here, you can begin to inspect and validate what is happening on that job site without actually needing to be there. And then finally, when you catch issues or you see things that maybe aren't correct, or you just want to take very general measurements on a site, you can begin to annotate what you see virtually on that site itself. And all of this information is immersive, it's accessible, it's very easy to pinpoint what is happening without actually needing to go to the site or spend hours walking the site. You can just see it on your computer from the comfort of your office. So that was the exterior of a building. What about the interior? How do you begin to marry all of the data that you capture on the outside to what is happening on the inside of a project? So when you begin to combine interior data with exterior data, you're going to easily track progress and coordinate between those team members. This enables you to build trust with executives or clients by sharing each project or each 360 walkthrough that you can see here. And finally, you can use this virtual site reality to improve planning and coordination among your field teams and your office teams. So I want to show you a little bit more in depth what an interior walkthrough can look like. This is going to simulate what it actually would be walking on a job site. And the way that this was captured was with a 360 camera that the employee here was carrying. So you would actually hold this camera in your hand, or maybe it's attached to your helmet, or maybe you were lucky enough to get a Spot robot from Boston Dynamics and attach the camera to your Spot. But as you walk the job site, the camera is continuously taking 360 video. So this is a video that is a 360 all around you. And when you upload it into a platform like Drone Deploy, you can actually interact with that and really capture every single angle of what is happening on the interior of your site. And so now that you've you have all of this data, you want to share it. You want to market the progress that you've made on this project to show executives and owners, or maybe even the general public if you're hosting town halls, how far you've come in the time from ground break to project completion. So what we're seeing here are three different types of media that I think are all very compelling in and of themselves. On the left is a panorama. And so you'll see here that you can move around the panorama to get that 360-degree view of everything that is happening on site. So it really makes you feel like from a bird's eye view, you're there, you're at the job site. With drones, you can also capture video. So, I'm sure a ton of you have seen in marketing ads, or maybe for your own marketing, a flyover of a job site. This is also another really compelling way to show how far a project has come. And then finally here on the right that we saw before is just a 2D map. So when you have this aerial view of a project looking down, it's really easy to see the progress that has been made on that project. And so ultimately what this helps to do by having these kinds of visual documentation is to really build trust among all stakeholders. Because visual evidence such as this can be invaluable during the building process, during the bid process, during handover. So once the building is completed and you're handing it over to the owner, and finally for proof and insurance claims, if you need to have some sort of photographic evidence of the site conditions for a specific instance. And so to close off that section about visual documentation, I just want to share a quote from one of our customers, Brassfield and Gorey. Brassfield and Gorey has been combining interior and exterior progress documentation for their sites in order to make more informed decisions that allow each one of their team members to focus on tasks that require their expertise, rather than having miscommunications, rather than having to go through a bunch of rework, and being able to actually compare what is happening on site to what was specified in the design plan. So rule one, visual documentation. I'll say that once more. The next rule that we think is really key here is accountability. So now that you have gathered all of this visual documentation of your site, whether it's 3D models, it's maps, it's panoramas, or videos, you can actually begin to use this information to keep all of those different teams and personnel on the same page. And so what does that actually look like? We've talked about panoramas a lot here. You'll see that on the left. Having that complete sitemap, that's the image here in the middle. And you can see each one of these icons here on the map actually corresponds to a panorama or a piece of media. So if you want to immerse yourself in that map, you would just click on one of these icons and it would take you to that site view that you see here on the left. And then finally, being able to overlay those designs that we've talked about. So bringing in your design plans from Procore or from BIM 360 and applying those to your maps to verify that what's being built is being built according to plan. And so really kind of the first level here of accountability is in planning, using the site reality to coordinate all these efforts across all of the different teams that you have working both in the field and in the office. The next use case here that we think is quite critical in accountability are inspections. So you really want to keep personnel accountable with inspections, whether they're interior, exterior, facade. With a digital record of your job site, you can report issues wherever you are, if it's in the field or in the office. So what you'll see here in this GIF is you're actually able to review your site in an immersive 3D experience. This is going to keep employees safe. You know, we talked about sending employees up on swing stages and on scaffolding. That's not something that I myself would really want to do on a daily basis. And this is going to save you a ton of time, a ton of money, and it's going to keep your employees safe all the while. And you're able to resolve issues quickly when you have this centralized source of truth. As you can see here, you can document the issues that you're finding on these facade inspections. You can summarize them. You can tag teammates to be like, hey, John, we found a crack in the facade. This is probably something that you're going to want to take a look at and then fix. And so when you have everything in this centralized platform, you can begin to close these issues with confidence. So you conduct the inspection via drone. The data is uploaded, converted into a 3D model. You pull up that 3D model, you have an immersive view, you scroll around the entire building, find where those potential issues might be, summarize the issue, tag your teammate responds, takes care of it, and closes out the issue. And this is really a closed loop of the inspection workflow, all completed in a single project, keeping your employees on the ground, saving time and saving money. So that's what it might look like on the outside of the building. This is what it looks like on the inside. So say you've completed your walkthrough with your 360 camera. Now you can actually navigate that walkthrough and tag issues, just like we saw on the exterior of the building. And to give you a little bit more in depth of what that looks like, you'll see here the central image is the tagging of the issue, the summary. The top right image here, you can actually, this is a very zoomed in portion of a 2D map. And those purple and blue lines you see are the actual lines of the walkthrough. So where the employee took that 360 camera. And you can see that that issue annotation is showing up exactly where you pinpointed that issue. So someone, say, who was not on the job site that day can pull up this map, click on that annotation, and immediately be taken inside the job site to see what that specific issue was. And then finally, because everyone loves a good report, this is automatically generated into an inspection report that is very easily sendable and digestible as PDF or email. Showing a little bit more in depth what those inspection reports look like. Say you've completed a drone-based inspection, you've annotated your map or your 3D model or your interior walkthrough for where all of those issues you found to be. They're all now listed on the report with your detailed summaries included. And this is something that you can very easily send to other project managers or GCs or whoever is overseeing the inspection workflow for your projects. So we've talked about planning. We've talked about inspections. What's another kind of verification that you might be doing on site? We found a really common use case with our construction customers is earthworks or earth moving. So what you're seeing in this map is a comparison of two different dates. You'll see one is the very beginning of February and one is a little bit later in the month. And what we're actually looking at is an elevation layer. So the different colors are representing different elevations on that map. And what you can do when you use drone-based survey for elevation measurements is you can actually begin to detect how much earth has been moved from one day to the next. And I know this seems very simple, But what this allows you to do are a number of things. The first is to accurately plan during the bid process. So say you want to submit an accurate bid, you know that some earth moving is going to be involved. You can compare a map, like you might see on the right, with a design plan. And the difference between the map and the design plan will tell you how much earth you're going to need to move in order to have the very beginning of the project completed to spec. And this is really important information to make sure that the bid you're submitting is accurately taking into account all of the costs of that earth moving project. So next, once you actually have your subcontractor started on the job, you're going to want to verify the amount of earth that the subcontractor claims that they have moved over the course of the month or months. And with this tool, you can compare two dates, as what's shown in the GIF here, to show how much earth has been moved from one day to the next to ensure that this project is going according to plan. And then finally, and really at kind of a more general high level here, this is going to keep team members up to date on the status of earth moving projects. If they have an accurate status, then you can begin to accurately plan and forecast and schedule the next steps of the construction project. This is going to remove delays and make sure that your project is on track as originally planned. And then finally here, and I know we've talked about this a little bit, is holding teams accountable that your project is being built to plan. So you'll see here in this image that you can overlay a design plan on top of a map. And when you're able to do this, this gives you a really powerful insight into how this project is progressing. And you can get detail level pictures here to ensure that pieces are where they're supposed to be going, or that the project has the most accurate measurements according to the plan. And this is going to allow you to catch issues, maybe where the project is not going to plan before you reach another critical project stage. So this is going to allow you to correct for those problems and avoid any sort of costly rework. And I want to close off this section about accountability with a quote from our customer, Jones Carter. So Jones Carter is primarily using the Earthworks capabilities that we talked about previously, and they're using Earthworks and using that change detection between maps to provide to their engineers while they're surveying, tracking progress, and verifying subcontractor work. So they want to be able to use the map and the model to visualize the site, and this is going to help make planning more efficient and accurate. And ultimately, this has saved them hours of time each time they go out and capture the data. A drone-based aerial survey takes probably a half hour versus a manual survey that could potentially take days or weeks. And so now finally that we've talked about visual documentation, we've talked about team accountability, I want to discuss data accessibility because really none of this matters if the appropriate people can't access that site data where and when they need it. Everyone loves a good report. We do too at Drone Deploy. So we want to make reporting as easy and as simple and as digestible as possible. So I know a number of you are probably working with owners, and owners don't really care about much more than how is the project going. I want to be able to see at the click of a button how this project is progressing and what my money is really paying for. And so we generate an automatic, what we call progress report, which is a comprehensive report of all of the media for a project on a specific date. So this is all comes through as an email link, and you can begin to interact with all of those pieces of media on that project, whether it be a video, a panorama, photos, a map. And this is all generated at the click of a button, sent at the click of a button, and is really easy to navigate through and immerse yourself in all of the details of that project on a specific date. Now, I know that all of you have probably a preferred construction software of choice, or actually most likely a few of them. And so whether you're sharing with the team or with owners, you can begin to use integrations that we have with Autodesk or with Procore to sync the latest design plans onto your drone deploy maps, or like we see on the right here, synchronize progress photos within your daily logs of Procore. So we know that not everyone is going to live in your drone software platform. That's actually quite unlikely, but you'll have a very large number of team members that are conducting their daily work within whatever your system of record is, if it's BIM 360, if it's Procore, or if it's PlanGrid. So what you can see here with PlanGrid is you can actually automatically sync your latest drone deploy maps with PlanGrid to perform quick measurements or to make accurate takeoffs through sheets, or maybe you just want to store the data in your documents module. It's really important that you can customize all of the information that you need to go from one platform to the other to ensure that all of the necessary and critical site data is available to your team where and when they need it. A number of our customers work in Esri. I know it might not be as widely spread in the construction space as it is in environmental or perhaps energy or oil and gas. But when you have a large team working in a geographic information system such as Esri, it's important that they have access to the latest site maps so that they can make the most up-to-date, accurate, informed decisions on whatever geological analysis they're doing that day by having the most up-to-date site conditions in their system of record. And I know that you all probably use a ton of different platforms. So those were just a few of the integrations that are available. It's really important to have data easily accessible on your construction software platform of choice, or potentially just shareable or easily accessible within storage platforms like Google Drive. And I want to close out this section with a quote from our customer Styles. Styles has been like a power user of Procore and Drone Deploy used together. And the way that they use the integration or the two platforms hand in hand is they check the as designed versus the as built, as well as any potential risks that they might see on site. And ultimately, this has saved them around $2,500 on average for each project that they've been using the integration on. All right. So I think that we are just about at time. So I'm going to go ahead and open up to Q&A. So if anyone has questions, feel free to write them in the chat and we will go ahead and answer them as they come in. I know we have just a couple minutes left here. So if you have questions, feel free to type them and I will respond. All right, everyone's being pretty quiet. If you do have any questions or you want to chat offline, my email address is pretty simple. It's just anna@dronedeploy.com. I'm more than happy to connect on LinkedIn or via email. So don't hesitate to get in touch if you are interested in learning more about any of the topics that we discussed today, or if you're interested in starting or growing a drone program for your company. We'll give it just one more minute here, see if anyone would like to submit any questions. All right. Well, with that, I know it's the end of a very long day. Thanks again to Ascend Media for having me here. It was really a pleasure to talk you through really what we think are the key pieces to successful project management. And again, feel free to reach out via email or via LinkedIn, and I'm more than happy to continue the conversation offline. Thank you very much, everyone. And I hope that you have a great rest of your day. Take care.